Guys, it is spooky season here at the Messed Up at Midnight podcast, and we could not think of a better way to celebrate than our first ever Messed Up at Midnight double feature extravaganza. What does that mean? It means we are going to talk for the entire month of October about every single Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie for the entire month. We're not giving y'all one, we're giving y'all 2 episodes a week for the entire month of October, where we talk about the original 1974 classic all the way to the Netflix released 2022 movie.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are covering everything. All the good, all the bad, all the ugly, all the Matthew McConaughey that you did not know was involved in the Texas Chainsaw franchise. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be dropping, just as my co-host said, we're going to be dropping episodes on Wednesdays and episodes on Saturdays. It is going to be packed back to back to back. So if you guys want to watch us sort of endure this sort of torture of sorts, be sure to check out the Messed Up Midnight podcast over wherever you get your podcasts. Also, be sure to follow us on socials, on Instagram and Twitter, and follow our YouTube channel. We post regularly, and that's how you're going to get updates on this craziness of a month. Strap in.
Guys, we will see y'all there, and we hope that you survive.
Everyone, and welcome to the Postmodern Art Podcast, the podcast dedicated to giving artists who are wowing the world over the platform they deserve. I am your host, Nathan Ragland, and I don't know what possessed you to listen to today's episode, but I'm certainly glad you decided to listen in on another wonderful conversation. Today's guest is Faust, a haunted mask possessed by an imp of mischief, stories, and games that has also decided to be a VTuber as well as be an author, among many other things in the art forms. This conversation I had with Faust was an absolutely fun one to have, though it's not an easy one to listen to. Mainly, there was a lot of technical issues going on with this episode. Something was wrong with Faust's mic to where it was cutting out, and like the first half of it, we tried with one mic, then we had to switch to a different mic. There was audio issues on my end as well. This, if I had to put it bluntly, was a nightmare of a recording session. But I think this is still an absolutely fun episode to listen to, so I sincerely hope that despite all the issues, you take the chance to listen and enjoy. If you enjoy Faust, make sure you support them with all the links down in the description below, especially their Twitch streams. There's certainly something special, especially considering the fact that they will be re-debuting their model on October 31st. I wonder what's so significant about that day. If you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you like, share, subscribe, or follow whatever audio streaming platform you prefer. Leave 5 stars wherever you can. I see that stuff and I love it from the bottom of my heart. Genuinely, thank you. If you want to go even further with that support, maybe you should consider repping some of the streetwear that you can find at the merch shop at pmap.creator-spring.com with some outstanding designs done by some wonderful artists, most of which, well, all of them actually, being former guests on the podcast themselves. And hey, look, if you just want a cool place to where you can join a community and get to talk about the wonderful art that you see present, or talk about the cool artists that have been on this podcast, maybe you should consider being a part of the Discord server, the Artist Sanctuary. We've already developed a nice, fun group there, and I sincerely think you guys would have a fun time if you join today. But now, without further ado, please enjoy the Postmodern Art Podcast.
Real quick, I just want to make sure, what all things are we going to be talking? Twitch stream, the writing, like
the main talking points I wanted to emphasize is because I was looking through when I was doing my research and whatnot, the video games, not necessarily the video games you had handed, but like working in the industry and how that kind of made you appreciate art or whatnot. The books you've had a hand in writing or whatnot, and what the writing process is like for you, and of course your endeavor into VTubing, developing the Faust character or whatnot, all the different aspects of that. That's the major three things. Everything outside of that or whatnot, it's fair game. Obviously, there's the icebreaker questions, and yeah.
I've got stories, so okay.
So we're leaning probably a little bit more towards the hour and a half mark, I guess.
Well, let's just put it this way, and I'm not going to go into details until So how'd you break into the industry? So it all started with a giant pink cape I wore for a weekend. Yes, there were sparkles.
All right, then.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
I'm a huge fan of Friends.
Love it. All right, Faust, before we really get going, I must ask the icebreaker question of the podcast, if I may. Let's say you get to go to a deserted island on your own accord. It's just you alone with your thoughts. You get to kick back, relax, breathe. Get to truly enjoy yourself for a little bit.
Yes.
To help with whatever vibe you want to try to go with, you could bring one piece of media or one piece of art with you. Again, to get whatever mentality you want to go with. If given this opportunity, what would that one piece be?
Just to vibe. It's not. This isn't a thing that I need to survive.
No, absolutely. Like I say deserted island, but like you got the accommodations. Like you're not going to like go batshit crazy. Like you're not trying to like you don't need like how to build a fort for dummies or something like that. This is just like it's a vacation more or less.
Okay, then that would have to be my favorite film of all time, which is Dark City, preferably the director's cut.
I'm sorry, say I got Dark what?
Dark City.
Dark City. Okay. What is it about that movie that has more or less a special place in your heart?
It is the first film I ever saw in the theaters 9 times.
9 times?
9 times. Saw it in the theater. That kind of lets you know that I was way back in the year of 1980. So, that I was able to see that film in the theaters 9 times. But yeah, it's a phenomenal film. It really helped shape how I viewed storytelling.
Okay.
How if you've not seen it, I highly recommend just watching the director's cut. I saw, of course, the theatrical release in the theaters. It still was still my favorite movie of all time. But finding out how much the studio had interfered in the vision and seeing what it was supposed to be reopened my eyes to how good that film was.
When you say studio meddling or whatnot, is it similar to kind of like the Thief and the Cobbler or whatnot? Just kind of the things that they intrude onto it. Not that it made it bad, but like it was a completely different film with the director's cut.
This was a very cerebral film.
Okay.
And people were expecting it to either be scary or sci-fi, and it was more kind of like speculative weird fiction brought to life.
Okay.
And since people didn't, they basically showed this to completely the wrong test audiences, and people are like, I didn't get it. And as such, in the theatrical cut, one of the side characters gives this monologue that was never intended to be there, where they explain the twists of the film.
That sucks.
Yeah, because it's like at first this happened. I'm not going to spoilers. The film is over 20 years old, but I'm not going to go into spoilers. It was kind of like if it's the first thing you see, like okay, it's fine. This is what we're intending, but it is one of those films where like the main character's an amnesiac.
Okay.
And what was supposed to happen is you were supposed to figure out what was happening with him at the same rate he was. With this monologue, you have like a breadth of information, and you're watching him piece it together. Like it completely restructures the narrative of the film.
Okay.
A lot of scenes were cut out because, they were more there for the aesthetic, but this film is about the aesthetic.
Okay.
I honestly say that Dark City is the answer to the question that was it was the answer to the question at the end of the 20th century to the question that was posed at the beginning of the 20th century by Metropolis.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. I will be honest. I have not seen the film myself, but you describing it right there, that little bit, I might have to take a little dive into that director's cut.
It is definitely the metropolis of our generation.
All right, fair
it's
enough.
A film that didn't necessarily do well in theaters, but has inspired so much stuff since then.
Duly noted, but nevertheless, Dark City, the director's cut. That's your answer. You're locking that in.
I'm absolutely locking that in.
If that's the case, I cannot think of a better way to start the Postmodern Art Podcast. Welcome, everyone. I am your host, Nathan Ragland. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, or follow whatever audio streaming platform you prefer. You can support the podcast on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/PMAP. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram at PostmodArtPod for future updates and guest announcements, including today's guest. They are a haunted mask possessed by an imp of mischief, stories, and games that somehow found a way to be an incredible artist on multiple fronts. Welcome to the podcast, Faust!
Hello, everyone. How are you doing today?
I am doing wonderful. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. Just here in my my newly renovated haunted home that's going to be part of my re-debut. This is actually my new model. Everyone on your podcast, sneak peek at things to come.
Ooh, just a little peek. You're such a tease, and yet you've already given us so much. I'm already excited. And I definitely want to divulge a lot into more of you and your aesthetic and everything, because you really present yourself in an incredible way. And again, we will definitely divulge a lot more into that. But before we really go into what you're doing nowadays, I want to go back just a little bit, if I may. And
yes.
I want to know more or less the origin story of Faust, or maybe the person behind Faust, depending on what this question. I want to know more or less the origin story. What got you interested in art in the first place?
So this is a big, long story. So I will be getting on my about it. So how do I put this? So when I was a teenager, I was an artist, constantly drawing. My first passion in life was I wanted to work in comics. I wanted to be a comic artist.
Okay.
The thing is my natural style, especially at the time, was a very dirty, scratchy, kind of that 90s indie style.
Okay.
And the thing is like, that's a phenomenal style. I loved what I could do, but it wasn't what I was wanting to make.
Okay.
I wanted to make the very crisp, clean, because I was a nerdy kid in the 90s who liked anime before it was cool to like anime. So I just started practicing. And it took me years, but I finally got to the point where, I was doing a correspondence course with Hubert School, and I was getting commendations in high school for my art.
Okay.
And I was getting ready to break into comics. I was actually starting to negotiate some stuff.
Okay.
But they wanted to just see a little bit more before they gave me anything to do. And that's when I started noticing my hands were acting up.
Oh.
I didn't know what it was. And I found out that I have a condition that affects my fine motor skills. And I had to watch over the course of about 6 months as I can hold things fine. It's the super fine motor skills that I love. So I had to watch my art skills go from just shy of being good enough to break into Marvel, DC, that sort of thing, to what I would call fairly talented 7th grader. And I fell into a deep depression, destroyed most of my art. Because it just hurt to look at stuff that, realizing I couldn't do it anymore.
Right. Right.
And I know it's so tell us about this wonderful thing. But what ended up happening was I still wanted to be involved in telling stories.
Right.
It made me reevaluate what I wanted to do. And I wasn't quite sure. It's I wanted to work in video games because they tell stories, but I didn't, I wasn't able to afford to go to college. So I didn't know really what all happened there, and then. But yeah, like I said, so I got into I reevaluated, what my passion was, and it was just stories. I wanted to break into gaming. I managed to do that. I did that for a few years. I'm actually trying to get back into gaming.
Okay.
But what I ended up doing was I got a job working for a publishing house.
Okay.
And an indie publishing house, and it really, I had thought maybe I could write a book, stuff like that, and then reading what people were willing to sign their name to and call a book, I realized, I can absolutely do this. Yeah, I don't. This isn't me dunking on. I'm an. But you need to have. If you're going to become an author, you need to have realistic expectations for oneself. And I dealt with people who didn't. I dealt with people who would write a 20-page treatise on some random, topic that was very ill, what's what I'm looking for, research.
Ill-conceived.
Ill-conceived, ill-researched, and then wanted to know why they weren't making millions of dollars. And I'm like, well, let's see. In 20 pages, I count 30 typos. Your cover was made by you. And we're not going to go into the contents of your story, but that's not what a cantaloupe is for.
Oh, goodness. I love how you're divulging into especially getting into this part of it more than anything else, because again I definitely want to divulge into that. I do just want to go back just a little bit back to what you were talking about at the beginning of what got you really interested in the first place, because I want to divulge just about comic books in the first place, because that being your first love. Comics. What is it about comics that creatively just captures your imagination?
It's changed over the years. It was, the first comics I ever, Archie Comics Teenage Mutant
Okay.
Turtles.
There you go.
Those were my first ones, and it's because it was Ninja Turtles. Hey, it's something Ninja Turtles I didn't have, and it's like the cartoon, except there's no commercials, except for some reason for Twinkies ads. Yeah. And then as I I graduated TMNT to X-Men. And then I got into see a lot of people their first to what I would call grown-up comics is something like Sandman, Watchmen. Mine was actually a lesser-known comic that was Grant Morrison's take on from 1992.
Sorry, can you say that again? Your mic cut out for I have to say Grant Morrison's take on
Kid Eternity.
Kid Eternity. Okay.
From 1992. I did not realize comics one could be painted, because I just thought it's it's just super, or it's just cartoons. Right. And this tackled very serious topics. But Kid Eternity is also a as a character is a 1930s hero that kind of went AWOL for about 4 years. DC Comics owned the rights to him, but they never did anything with it.
Okay.
And so this was basically what happened to this character, and Grant Morrison, it was one of his first things he did. I think he did it right after his favorite take on Animal Man.
Okay.
And it was one of the darkest things I've ever read. And that and Dark City.
Okay, you know what? That's fair. That is very valid. And definitely seeing the stuff that you've definitely had a hand in as well, and the stuff you've certainly developed, hearing kind of their takes on that stuff and kind of the influence and the inspiration, the foundation of you more than anything else. I get that. I totally understand that. It must be... I can only imagine, especially considering the fact that, comics, you can probably attest to this as someone that tried to be a part of it, the scope of them more than anything else can blow a person's mind if given the opportunity to just go all out with it more than anything else.
Yeah. I'll be honest. It's been, while I love stuff like the MCU, I really more appreciative of stuff like Netflix's take on Sandman,
Right.
or the HBO Max, just because they are very, like, these are comics that 10 years you don't even try to adapt these to the screen. Like, this won't work on the screen. And now they're making it work on the screen.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that was my whole thing on it. Like, I love the MCU. I love I love the interconnectedness of it. I appreciate what DC is trying to do, and yeah, but DC the thing is DC really works better as television.
Yeah, you know
Marvel
what?
works better. Marvel works better as movies. DC works better as, and it's one of the reasons why, while I love the Disney Plus, the reason why the Disney Plus MCU stuff works so well is because we've already had 10 years of the MCU in theaters to get us used to their narrative style, their characters, their actors, and then so when we have Loki, it makes sense. If we would have had just without anything else, I mean, beyond the fact that like the origin of how that shows, or like WandaVision, like it probably would not have stuck as much as it has. At the same time, I think that if DC had just bit the bullet and said, you know what, we're going to take the Arrowverse people and put them on the big screen, I think people would be far more receptive than just like, okay, well, we're going to have Batfleck, and we're going to have this, and we're going to have this, and even though this one dude's been playing the Flash on TV for 10 years, we're going to cast Ezra Miller. Like there was no reason for it.
Right.
Now I'll say this: I'm actually a fan of Henry Cavill.
Oh yeah, Henry Cavill does a great job with that Superman role.
Oh yeah. And I think another good reason why it works well is because until recently they really didn't have a Superman in first. So it was a new thing.
Right.
Sorry, I think I'm tangenting.
No, it's perfect. It's a podcast. I'm more than welcome.
Yeah.
I'm open when it comes to tangents more than anything else. We gotta get to an hour somehow, right? No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
But I did want to say, like, knowing that kind of love and appreciation for the comics and whatnot, you said yourself, like, having to want to like be so close to it or whatnot, and then having what happened to you happen like that. I can understand why it was soul crushing more than anything else, but I do appreciate you persevering nevertheless and being able to find a creative outlet in one way or another, especially with the video games that we kind of more or less teased around more than anything else. I have to know, what got you interested in going for video games as the new medium for you to let your creative input out?
So the way that I broke into video actually MMO City of Heroes, if you remember.
MMO City of Heroes, okay.
I was actually a fairly well-known player on that game. I was kind of quote unquote like one of there were two of us who were very well known for doing kind of comedy stuff on the game. It was me and another person, but I played an evil fashion designer on that game. I played a villain.
Okay.
Named Arbiter Fabulous. That's actually Arbiter Fabulous is actually still my Twitter professional stuff.
Okay.
But imagine like because in City of Heroes, it's like hero, or you can villains are tied to this evil organization called Arachnos, which is kind of like Cobra, except they're all spider themed. And I'm like, someone had to design uniforms. Someone had to design those uniforms. I'm going to play the game to design those uniforms. And so after like binge watching a couple Saw films, and originally he was just the character that I was going to just do for a laugh, and stand in the bar like the role play bar in City of Heroes,
okay,
and just insult people's costumes, because I was like my friends and I really do cool stuff with their costume editor, and it had a very robust character and costume creation system. And so I would just like call people out over their costumes and just drag them. And then the thing is that there was a costume editor contact in the bar. And what ended up happening was I would just like, go off on someone, like, like what the hell are you wearing? I'm trying to think of like a good, it's hard for me to get back into that character. It's been like 10 years.
Fair enough. It's like who exactly designed you a traffic cone or something along the lines of that?
Yeah. It's like I was just being catty and fun, but what ended up happening is like people would actually leave and then come back 5 minutes later and they had done the adjustments I had had.
Oh wow!
And then the next thing you knew, I had a line going around the bar to come up, have me look at them, insult them, tell them how to change. They would run and get their costume changed. And then a thing on the forums happened where it's like, this is the most fun role-playing I've had in years. At which point, there was a player-run and developer-sent newsletter called The City School. And they inquired if I would be willing to write. And I said, absolutely. It's like, like all I ask is that people are able to write to me saying, this is what my costume looks like, this is my inspiration, send me a screenshot of their character, and I will redesign, and send them the costume file so that they know what to look for.
Okay.
And apparently it quickly became the most popular article on the City Scoop within a few weeks. Like it became the reason why people read it. And so that was like my first foray into like semi-professional writing. So cut to 2009 and City of Heroes was having HeroCon in San Jose. And my editor-in-chief actually made costumes for like SCA event.
Okay.
And as a gift, she's like, I need your measurements. And I'm like, why? It's like, I'm going to make you the Arbiter Fabulous costume, at least a, business casual version of it, because honey, I've seen you, you won't look good. And so like it involved this like 6 foot long hot pink cape with sparkles with this like you know how like Doctor Strange has the collar in the comics, like
yep,
movies, like it puts that to shame.
Oh wow.
And I'm a large person, like I'm 6'5", in real life. And this thing billowed and flowed around me. And I said, like, you have to understand that if I put on this costume and get into character, I am not leaving character all weekend. And she just started, I was hoping you'd say that. So things come around, day one, I go around, I'm not in the costume. I said, it was great seeing you all. I guess I'll see you Sunday. And they're like, you're leaving? You'll understand in 30 minutes. And I go upstairs, blast a little Brittany, because it helped me get into character. Brittany and Pet Shop Boys. Put on the costume, and I head downstairs, and I am just holding court from that moment on for 3 days. I have this awesome room party. Like, there may actually be YouTube footage of this somewhere, where everyone's like, oh, I mean, it's like, we're all nerds, we're all geeks, but like I am just going up there, and I there was almost no pleasantries. Like I start roasting devs at their own Q&A. Completely in character, and they're like, oh god, it actually is Arbiter. Crap. Who brought him here? but we, myself, my friends, like we were just trying to be, like we weren't being, like we were like there was a cattiness to it, but it was all in the it was all done from a place of love.
Yeah, it was all in good fun more than anything else at the end of the day.
It was all in good fun. It was all in good fun. And at the end of the convention, after like doing like performance stuff and doing lots of photos, and hosting a rather spectacular room party. How do I put this? They announced that they were going to, like, the 5 pinnacles of the community, which are basically like the 5 Player of the Year awards, and I was one of them.
Oh wow!
And I wasn't expecting at all, because I'm like, there's people who are writing guides, there's people who who are running like high-end dungeons and raids consistently. There are people who are like far more, as far as I can sort of well known to me. And I'm like, my job is to tell people that they look bad. My job is to tell people that doesn't work. I was evil Edna mode from the Incredibles. and I got a standing ovation. Once the con was over, like I got to talk with the devs, and I learned about community management.
Okay.
Because I did not know that this was I didn't know that this was even a position. I didn't know that this was a job. I just thought that, being on the forums is just something dev has to do, because, no, that's actually a position. I'm like, so your job is to help the studio tell its story to the audience, as well as being the voice for the community to the devs. And I'm like, oh, hell, I want to do that. Like, that sounds awesome.
All right.
I packed up, moved to San Jose. My current husband, my only husband. This was 2010, so I lived in Tennessee. I was just like, I have to, please just give me a year to try and break in. I have to chase this. And he was really nervous about this, because we had a house, and here I was like, I need to move, to the West Coast to dream. So I moved cross country, and that's how I broke into it. I started in QA at Moreno, worked my way up, and then found out Paragon Studios Heroes, one of the members needed to go on a sabbatical for a few months, and they brought me on. So I actually got to work on my dream game.
There you go.
So that's actually, so people are like, did you go to college for this? Did this involve a lot of, research and development? And okay, so what I did is I got kind of drunk, put on a pink cape, and insulted my future employer for 3 days. That's how I broke in. I'd
say you're living the dream right there. You see where that?
I was living the dream right then and there.
Hey everyone, this is Nathan, or post production. But I know I mentioned this at the beginning of the episode, but I just wanted to pop in here real quickly to let you know that there was really bad technical issues. I'm sure you probably noticed with some of the mic cutting out or whatnot here and there. It was at this point where we realized that it was getting really bad, really choppy. So we disconnected stuff, we reconnected stuff. Faust implemented a new microphone, so he's going to sound a little bit different. Hopefully, though, you'll still be able to enjoy the rest of the episode, because there wasn't as many technical difficulties from this point forward. Sorry for the interruption. Let's get you back to the episode. I imagine for you, it has to be incredible more than anything else for you, considering the fact that, again, this was the game that more or less, got you, helped you through, this weird part of your life more than anything else. And then getting a chance to really go into video games, full circle, being able to work on the game as well and being able to tell that narrative, that has to be, surreal more than anything else.
Oh, it was phenomenal. I mean, I remember my first day walking down the hall to go into the studio once, because like I had been to the studio before for like private demos. You know, like I was like one of the more recognized, or I would say like one of the more trusted members of the community. So if there was we want to do like a super closed beta. You know, we want to get like like a focus group. Like I was one of the people that they would contact.
Okay.
And you know, but at the same time, as much as we were trusted, when you went to the studio, like you could sit in the lobby of the studio, but there was this hallway leading to where the computers and the offices were, and there was this big sign above it that was a blown up version of the signs that would go into a hazard zone in the game. Like they actually put that there.
Oh wow!
And after my interview for the position, and my dear friend Andy Belford, who was the head community manager, then like, okay, well, let's show you the office. And I'm like, what? I'm like, you got it. You got the job. Like walking down that hallway and seeing it for the first time, like it was something that stuck with me forever. But no, it was actually like technically my first paid writing gig. Now, admittedly, you know, if when I was a game master on Eden Eternal, stuff like that, you know, writing forum posts, you know, technically that's paid writing, but there was an event that they wanted to do. They wanted to kind of do a parody of Shark Week.
Okay.
And one of the signature villains of the game was a villain named Captain Mako, who was like a mutant shark man. And so I had like I still do probably an encyclopedic knowledge of the lore of the game. And so I'm like, okay, well, how about if I write like Captain Mako Week, and we'll just make it like, you know, a 5-day event. You get a little bit of lore each day. It's nothing super serious. You know, and we'll just like, you know, like, okay, well, you know, a bunch of sharkmen are going to attack, you know, a bunch of villains are going to attack the city, and a giant octopus is going to attack the city, and then we'll have people beat up Captain Mako, and we'll jump in game and play as the characters. You know, and I wrote Captain Mako Week, and I believe that is actually still available on some wikis.
Okay.
Fun fact: once I was done, dumbass that I was, my boss was like, you know, this is really good, but can you write like a second version, like completely different one? And what I didn't know is that he really liked the one that I did and wanted me to write like a slightly less good version, just to basically upsell the one that I had written. And I went like completely grimdark on the second one. I delved into like super deep lore because I thought that this was too much fluff. And I'm like, oh, they want me to really add to the lore. So like, here I am like bringing out like villains and connections from like, you know, early game and stuff from the novelizations. And he's reading like this wasn't what I like kind of like, oh crap, this is amazing. But like, we can't actually use this because it might actually affect the game's lore now.
Oh, it's nice to know that you have so much of an impact that you might mess up the story.
Yeah, it's like, you know, like you've actually like solved a loophole that we were like wanting to possibly close at a later time because timelines don't match between these two alternate realities. And oh my god, this completely makes sense. No, we're gonna go with the one where you turn the shark man into a brony at the end. Which actually was the end of Captain Mako, because Captain Mako decided he was going to shed every last bit of his humanity, you know, all this, and then like right before he ends, on his TV, Magical Dream Unicorns comes on. 30 minutes later, okay, I'll keep a small piece of my humanity, and like sets like a TiVo for next week.
Oh goodness, that is incredible to hear. Like, I know if I had the opportunity to affect even like anything remotely like that or whatnot, I would just be in like heaven. The fact that you got to be a part of it and basically influence a major part of it more than anything else, like, I can only imagine, like, especially that and like your experience with video games, like, and the fact that you got to live out part of that creativity that you kind of lost with the comic book things more than anything else. That has to be, again, like, surreal to be a part of that even in the first place.
It was phenomenal. And you know, like I said, is having done a bit of writing here and there, and it was really more of a hobby. Like, you know, and you know, I had ideas for comics and stories and stuff when I was a teenager, and a lot of those kind of, pardon me, you know, some of that stuff got adapted later on, my actual book publishing stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, like it was the whole thing where, you know, I wanted to work in comics and then I couldn't, so I wanted to break into video games. So I played the comic book video game and then got to write the lore on a very small, goofy level, you know, very surface, glossy level on the superhero video game that I finally got to work on. Like, it was this whole sort of whole like full circle thing, and really got me I'm you know, I love working in community management. I'm actually trying to find another gig right now. I'm hoping to hear back from a, we'll just say, a major franchise. I'm hoping to hear back from them, but I don't know. Because you see, the next chapter in my life is you thought that was weird? Wait till you hear about when I started book publishing.
Okay. We'll definitely keep an ear close to the ground, knowing that you're not fully out of the video game. But I do appreciate the fact that you were able to have a regardless, incredible chapter. But again, you know, with most books, it's not just one chapter. There are multiple chapters. And for this next question, I want to know about, I don't know if it's within the same vein, but at least like the next chapter, which for you was a continuation of writing, getting actually to be able to write and publish your own books, which I think is absolutely incredible. What exactly gave you the idea to go into book publishing in the first place?
So my roommate was already working for this company. He was, and he was what was known as a vetter. That ended up being my job as well. It's sort of like QA for Kindle books.
Okay.
Now, when I was working at Paragon, it was meant to be a short-term contract. I had no preconceived notions that they would keep me on. Apparently, they wanted to keep me on. They just didn't have it in the budget to keep me. So I was already looking for another job. Okay. With the hope that, like, this is something I could do temporarily until the budget would allow me to possibly go back to Paragon. Sadly, and so with this other job, I'm not going to name the company. It's the book publishing house. They're still technically around. They recently got bought out. Okay. But they're still technically around. But you know, I have a really big knack for pattern recognitions and the vetting Kindle books effectively, or vetting ebooks. I just use Kindle because it's more
recognizable,
more recognizable term. But generally, actually, Kindle was like the one thing we didn't do because that's all Amazon. But like, it is all pattern recognition. It's all noticing, you know, like, oh well, you know, your margins are wrong, your font sizes are incorrect, stuff like that. And so I shoulder surfed him for the better part. I'd actually found a couple errors on their website just passively, and you know, whenever he would have like a big, like a company party to go to and got a +1, he'd just bring me along. So I already knew a majority of his coworkers. We got along fairly well. You know, I was the goofy roommate who worked on the video game. So when I found out that an opening happened, he basically, you know, go sign up. I got my interview, was pretty much almost instantly offered a job.
Nice.
It was a phenomenal job. Paid very well. It paid moderately well for San Jose. Because that's where I was located. And I actually, like, my last day at Paragon, Friday, and my first day at this publishing house was the Monday after. Like, I had dovetailed perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, like the whole point was like, I'm going to be here for a bit, you know, because I said like, you know, listen, my passion's management. I've kind of graduated from really having a focus on QA, and they said, well, everyone does vetting for at least kind of figure out where they're best, and you know, if social media management and community is your thing, then that's what we'll have you do. If we determine that we can work with that. Needless to say, I kind of was so good of a vetter that they want me to do anything else. It was like hindsight 2020. I probably should not have stayed at that job as long as I did, because becoming a community manager was a carrot on a stick that they used to keep me going. But I was their highest performer on the vetting team for years.
Okay.
But like at the same time, like I also got to, you know, that's where I built like a network of people, because, you know, although it's indie publishing, a lot of big name authors, once they get the rights back to older books of their libraries, you know, books that are just not going to be kept being reprinted, you know, they still want to be able to put those books out somewhere. And so a lot of them, you know, came to us. I will still say that probably my saddest working there was within my first 2 months, and I had to write a rejection letter with the 3 words I never ever want to write a rejection letter with again. My rejection letter started with "Dear Clive Barker."
Oh.
And it was fine, because it's basically, it was one of his more famous books from the past. Whoever was assigned to format it did a really bad job. You know, sent the rejection letter. It got fixed, got sent back. I tagged it for myself. I verified it. It was fine. You know, but you know, it wasn't. You know, a few big name authors, you know, did go through us, but mostly this was a bunch of, you know, mom and pops and, you know, geeks and what have you, who just, everyone has a story inside of them. And, you know, I realized that, you know, again, like my passion is I love stories. I want to help people tell stories. This is a way for me to make sure that people are telling the best story that they can, you know, that it's at least the most presentable. You know, I was not an editor. I did not judge based on, because trust me, if I did, none of those books would have made it. You know, because again, indie publishing is phenomenal if you put in the work, if you have the give a damn.
Yep.
If you know, and it sucks because, you know, people are like, well, I can't afford, you know, an expensive cover. It's fine. You don't need an expensive cover. You just shouldn't look like you have a cheap cover. You need to be able to fake it.
Or, you know, maybe the cheap cover is part of the gimmick. Look at Chuck Tingle. Anyways,
Well, no. I am talking about like people who literally threw something together in MS Paint in minutes.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Enough.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I could probably share with you some covers that I saved just for sheer posterity. Speaking of Chuck Tingle, I actually got to briefly work with him there.
Really?
Yes. Chuck Tingle is a phenomenal, wonderful author to work with. And I will say this, as an admin, yes, I know. And you know, people are like, oh, who's Chuck Tingle? I'm like, I will never, ever say, one, that would probably violate every NDA known to man. 2, you should not peek behind that curtain.
No, you should not.
No one should. Because the best part about working with Chuck Tingle is even in professional correspondence, Chuck is completely in character.
Oh, wow.
It is not an act for Twitter. It is not an act for publicity. Chuck Tingle is a phenomenal individual, and I take everything I know, every secret grave. Chuck deserves no less.
Okay. You know what? Hey, I have nothing but respect for the guy, considering the fact that he's been able to put out how many books or whatnot, and like.
Oh, you think that? No, Chuck Tingle almost single-handedly took down. I mean, they're not technically gone in the same way that the organization I'm about to references. And warning, this gets slightly political here, but Chuck Tingle almost single-handedly took down the literary equivalent of Gamergate.
Oh wow!
Because they weren't expecting this. If I won't go into this because this is. If you want me to talk to you about this after the stream, because it's awesome, but just look up Chuck Tingle versus the Rabid Puppies, which is the name of they were an offshoot of a group called the Sad Puppies. I'm going to end up telling this story. I'm sorry. I'm going to end up telling this. Forgive me. But for people who don't know, in sci-fi there is a group of very similar to Gamergate. Kind of sad. They're called the Sad Puppies. I don't know why, but they're generally like, we want sci-fi the way it be. We want it more pulpy. We want it more, and there's nothing wrong with pulp era sci-fi. But it's the fact that you're complaining that other people get voices is what get voices. It's popular. I'm sorry, if the thing isn't popular, it's not popular. I have a deep appreciation for pulp. Like, I love pulp era comic. But at the same time, times change. Audiences change. You cannot expect the same thing to sell indefinitely.
Right.
You need to be able to move. You need to be able to move times. And again, you will always have an audience for that stuff. But it was, again, they were very, blunt. So the Rabid Puppies were their more extremist side of things. And they decided that the Hugo Awards at Worldcon were going to be their big target. And the way that one gets nominated for the awards is by popular vote. So anyone can be nominated for a Hugo, and that's one of the reasons why I love the but they decided that since Chuck Tingle wrote a book called Space Raptor Butt Invasion, I'm not joking, that they were going to basically spam the nominations for best short story or best novella, I think, with Chuck Tingle and get him to win because, well, if Chuck Tingle wins a Hugo, and he's the weird, anyone who knows Chuck Tingle knows the sort of stuff that he writes.
Yep.
But it's that would delegitimize, and as such, it delegitimizes everyone else who ever that point. The thing is they didn't understand that Chuck Tingle is a freaking genius.
Yep.
And it's also not the first time that someone has been maliciously given a Hugo nomination. Generally speaking, in the publishing circles, when people get maliciously nominated, they will graciously retract their own nomination. Be like, I'm very honored, but I know why this was done. I don't want to do anything for, I don't want to possibly harm the Hugo Awards.
Right.
Chuck took a completely different approach. He leaned into it and he decided we're playing. He's like, I gladly accept this. However, I am a very private person who is also a doctor, and as such, I will not be able to attend. However, should I win, my good friend Zoe will take the stage and deliver my acceptance speech for me. And the Rabid Puppies freaked the hell out because, oh crap, he just called, no one's ever actually called the bluff before, let alone been able to follow it up. It's we've got this mobilized for him to win, and if we do, we're going to be putting someone with the completely opposite, political agenda on stage.
Yep.
And oh God, we just showed. On top of that, and I believe this has since been taken down, but they had never actually claimed their own website.
Oh.
So Chuck Tingle bought the website. I think it was rabbitpuppies.com. I don't think that website's around anymore. You might be able to find it on archive.com. but he turned half of the website into a place to learn about the other nominees. So and with links for them, because everyone, like hey, like this, you're here because you probably got this. These people are phenomenal authors. You should totally read their books and vote for them if you like them. The other portion of it was a bunch of links to charities to raise money for libraries, because not everyone has access to books, and this way more people can get books. And then the other half of the website was a gay shrine to Channing Tatum.
There you go. There you go.
and so like within it, and because Chuck Tingle, like he's got that. So within a week, if you looked up rabid puppies, you started finding, like some voices and charities for these libraries, and also a lot of shirtless pics of Channing Tatum, and he buried them.
Yep.
And so like the next year, kind of as a lot of people like sincerely nominated another one of his short stories for a Hugo. So now he actually puts on, he's 2-time Hugo nominated. And here's the thing, as someone who's had to work on his books, while the content of his books are a little bit, shall we say, ridiculous, they are actually very well written. He is a phenomenal author. And actually recently at, I want to say it was Comic-Con, he's actually gotten now a mainstream contract with 4 books, where he does actually like to dabble in, and he's got a 2-book contract with, where he is writing 2 books with inclusive voices that will be published traditionally in bookstores. Like this is like he is kind of he's moving to like kind of the next phase while still doing the sort of like weird erotica. But yeah, like it's really like Chuck's a phenomenal individual to work with.
I'm not gonna lie, going into this interview, I didn't think we'd go on to a full-on discussion about Chuck Tingle. I thought I was gonna make the joke and move on. But
I'm actually going to be doing a thing on my stream called Tingler Tuesdays, where I have a costume where I become a Chuck Tingle book, and I will be reading Chuck Tingle books on my stream, because he's also given blanket permission for streamers to read his books on streams.
Well, there you go.
So it's not a DMCA thing.
Well, there you go. So then, in other words, we got to turn in a couple days or whatnot, and maybe we'll see one of them. But back to the book aspect of what
sorry.
I imagine working along the likes, with the likes of Chuck Tingle and all these other people and helping them like get their books vetted and whatnot. I imagine that must have gave you at least a spark of inspiration for you to go forward and create your own books.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like the way that I found one of my cover artists, the way that I found my cover artists were through indie publishing. I would find a book, I'm like, that's a really amazing cover, and I'd write down I'd look in about page, in the legalese, and I'd be like, okay, Tom Edwards Designs, Montos Lapas, and covers by Raven, and I take notes on this, and I would I got to see the trends. And I've always been a fan of urban fantasy stuff like Dresden, such not. And I'm like, I've had these stories for a while. I played a heroes, just ideas of characters that have been bouncing around my head since I was a teenager. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I know that I'm a better author than a decent chunk of the people whose books I'm getting, because there's a lot of. And I don't want to sound like I'm, hoity-toity and these people don't know what they're doing, but, I got to peek behind the curtain. Like, I had access to resources about authorship and metrics that these people didn't. Like, they thought that they were making these phenomenal things for Absolute Passion Project, and these are not like people who were like, oh, I'm going to make $1 million off of this pamphlet. Right. A couple of them did. A couple of them were thinking that, but I knew what pitfalls to avoid because I was looking at 200 books a day. Okay. And after a while, you start realizing these are the things that are happening in the books that aren't doing well. These are the things that are going on in the books that are doing well. And I was starting to make contact and network. And so I wrote a concept that I had been wanting to do since I was is my first book series, The Gear Witch Investigation. And the first book I wrote took me about a year, I think, called The Art of Madness.
Yep.
And the thing about the Gear Witch books are they are a non-linear. I tell the books out of order, and one of the main reasons why is I want any book to be picked up and be accessible as the first book.
Okay.
I was highly inspired by Pratchett, Terry Pratchett's Discworld series, where it may help to read books in a certain order, but at no point are you required to read this book before this book in order to fully understand what's going on.
Right.
And at the same time, I kind of love the concept of people are talking about things and you don't know. That's how, whenever you meet someone new anyways, that's how it is. Everyone that you meet has a history you don't know about. And through, being around them and through conclusive context, you find out what they're like, what these other things were. I remember I was at Starbucks one time and I was talking to a friend about, it's completely non-linear, and, the first book is actually about a third through the saga, and some, I don't want to say hipster jackass, but some hipster jackass, just I couldn't help but, hear what you're saying. It's I don't think you know what you're, I want you to name me one IP where the stories are told out of order, and I just stopped, I leaned and I went, Star Wars. And that shut him the hell up.
Yep. I mean, you're absolutely not wrong, and I fucking love that.
It's we start this entire saga with a trilogy we don't even know that. I mean, technically, and I'm not a huge fan of storyteller anymore, but I mean, if you're talking the gaming equivalent, Five Nights at Freddy.
Yeah.
People are trying to still figure out that. And the other reason why I wanted to do it was not just inspired by Pratchett and the fact that storytelling, but it's the fact that I fucking hate fan wikis. I don't want to and there's nothing wrong with that. There are I browse fan wikis all the time, but the idea of I've finally written the 15th book in the series, and someone's like, well, what happened before that? And I'm like, oh, well, here's the books. You should totally read these books. It's actually, I'm going to spend 2 hours on Wikipedia, and I'll just myself up, and I'm like, well, I'm glad I spent years writing all those. Hope you like books. God damn. So now it's going to be I'm going to write a thing, and I'll drop a little hint at something that's to come or something that happened before, and 10 books later, I'll be able to be oh, what that was about.
Oh.
And this also allows me to be able to tell a narrative for two different narratives to two different audiences.
Right.
Once the series is over, people will be able to read the books 1 through however many they're going to be, and I know it. And then there will be the people who read it in the order of release. Much in the same way that Narnia has that. Narnia was also told out of order. I think Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is book 3 or 4 technically on the timeline. It might actually be that. But yeah, that was almost everyone I worked with at that company had actually at least published 1 book. Just because they'd been working around books for so long, heck, I could do that. Some of them did fairly well, some of them not so much. That's now side gig is technically novelist.
No, there you go.
So yeah.
I mean, I know, especially with the the series that you were talking about with the Art of Madness and the Always Machine as well with those books.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And Always Machine is book 2 in release and takes place significantly before the first book that was. And it's it's like book 2. The main character Phoenix is an adult. In Art of Madness, Phoenix is an adult. In Always Machine, Phoenix is a teenager.
Okay.
So you kind of figure out why he is the way he is a bit for book 2, because some people are like, he acts a bit strange and quirky, and I like that, and this explains kind of why he's.
Exactly. And it's incredible more than anything else. Like, again, knowing kind of how your mind is working to like craft these stories more than anything else. Like, what is the process for you whenever developing a story, let alone like a universe like this?
Well, the thing is I try to let the stories be about people.
Okay.
Because the thing is it is one of the first pitfalls that I fell into this big time. One of my editors, Julie, had to knock some sense into me, and it felt horrible because like I didn't want to listen at first. But the thing is the universe that your characters are in are not a character. As much as we want the world to be a character, they aren't. Even in stuff like Disc, where literally the world is a character, the world is not a character. Stories are about people. And if you're just trying to paint a landscape without action, without anything about it, I mean, you can absolutely be like, I love this storytelling. I love the sort of characters this person creates in this universe. I love the world that they've crafted. I will buy a side saga world just because I'm invested in it. But you're not reading it for the world. You're reading it for the action of the characters.
Right.
And that's really what I had to do. Like the Gear Witch universe is one where I kind of low-key address things that I kind of don't like in urban fantasy, which is primarily everything is a secret war in the shadows. It was like my big take on like why I also like the movie franchise, because it's like, oh, no one can ever know about. Everyone has a freaking camera on their. Like, there is no way, you're going to have a secret war in the shadows of vampires and werewolves or superpowered beings. Like, it's gonna get leaked.
Yep.
Like, if something's set, before 1980, as far as I'm concerned, then that's a possibility. But any modern urban fantasy, this stuff is going to be known about. So I leaned into that. So in the Gear Witch universe, the supernatural and the superpowered are both known about. There is no secret war. It's common knowledge. I've stated in the past that there be no Superman in the Gear Witch universe. Clark Kent would either be a reporter because he loves being a reporter, or he would probably be a construction worker because a person who can lift several thousand tons and weld with his eyes could probably fetch a decent paycheck for his skill set.
Yeah, I'd like to think so.
Yeah, and then you have the main character Phoenix McGee, who actually is the one kind of like, he doesn't fit the mold. He is the one person who has powers that they do not show up on any, because he's actually something different. So the supernatural in the Gear Witch universe are known as Stygius. The superpowered are known as Omnis. He is sort of this third thing that is not detected. So he has all the benefits of being a powered being, but he also has none of the protections.
Okay.
And that's where his issues are, is the fact that he can do all of these things, but if he gets in trouble, he's got no defense against anything.
Right.
He does not have, he is not registered to have power. That's his big thing.
There you go. I could tell, especially like going back to like what we were talking about in the first place at the beginning of this interview with the comic books or whatnot, like that having a major influence when it comes to your writing as well. And I imagine that also has a major influence to your other book series that you've got rolling as well. Animaetropolis. Where did this concept come from, if I may ask?
I've always been a fan of cartoons. A huge animation geek. And I've always kind of, I don't want to say an adult version of Roger Rabbit, but I wanted something where I kind of subvert that concept. And a lot of people immediately go, oh, well, that's Cool World. And I'm like, well, no, because Cool World is probably, if any of you know animation history, Cool World was a movie that was finished out of spite after serious studio interference.
Okay, fair enough.
we're talking people worked on painting backgrounds for a year, and day one of filming, I believe that like people were just handed a new script that no one signed off on. Like, by the way, this is for your... And Ralph Bakshi, the director, like, you don't do that to Ralph. He can be a spiteful man, and I respect him for that.
Absolutely.
But like, I wanted a world where, you know, you had the humans together, much like Roger Rabbit, but I wanted it for people who grew up with Roger Rabbit. You know, I wanted it, you know, I didn't want it to be like a lot of, you know, how do I put this? A lot of quote unquote, adult cartoons just kind of lead into foul humor while still, you know, like Sausage Party, that sort of thing. You know, I would say Rick and Morty, but the thing is, they actually kind of deep issues now and then. I'm just not a big fan of their fandom. On the whole, but like Rick and Morty's not a bad show. It's just, I don't want to ever talk about Rick in public because then you get quote unquote the fans. But you know, I wanted a story that dealt the sort of stuff that I love. Like I'm a huge fan of cartoons. I'm a huge fan of horror, particularly stuff Cronenberg body horror. And I'm like, how can I mix these two together? And I'm like, okay, we have a dude who gets turned into a cartoon character in a world where humans and toons live side by side, and I want it to be absolutely horrifying. I want it to be, because everyone's like, oh, I want to be a cartoon when I grow up. And it's like, what if that happened? Like, what would that actually... And it's not pleasant. Like, you know, no one would really want to have an anvil honestly dropped and crushing them. I mean, I'm sure some people do, but, you know, aside... but you know, like it's... You know, I try to address, like, what it would be like. And, you know, again, like, there's body horror. It's wild. It's probably the most violent ever. I mean, it goes places. Like, it's actually the first time I think I've ever written a sex scene. Which actually led into some hilarity because my nick for the audiobook is a huge animation geek. He's actually the same person who Art of Madness. And when I found out that he was a huge animation geek, he's like, please let me narrate this. I'm like, of course, like, you're the first person I went to. And he narrated it kind of like, dude, these are cartoon characters, and you like cartoons, like, give them silly voices. And he turned the book almost play. But once it was over, he posted on his Facebook, being an audiobook narrator means sometimes you have to record a human male on cartoon Fox sex scene and make it sound romantic. And I'm like, just because you complained about this, they're going to a BDSM session.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no!
And I'm like, I said, it's like, I am adding a sex scene in every book now just because you did that.
Jesus.
Like, that was going to be like just the one-off, and I'm like, no, this is now a thing. Congratulations.
And you said Cool World was made out of spite.
Oh god.
No, that I gotta say, like, the way that your mind is working with both these concepts that you're talking about more than anything else, I love hearing you talk about this stuff more than anything else. I love the time that you've invested into this to really make it something else, and I appreciate also, like, just the fact that you've gone forth and made it and, like, are developing it more with some of the visuals you provided with just, like, the covers alone. I know with with Animetropolis, I mean, former guest of the podcast and wonderful friend Cosmo Perry did the cover for Animetropolis, which I have to admit, first and foremost, applause for that one. That is wonderful that you were able to do for that one.
I do have to make a slight clarification. Cosmo did the cartoon art. Right. The actual assembly of the with the combination of background images and stuff, that was done by a artist. But fun fact, I actually have the covers for books 2 and 3 done. Ooh. And I believe I have the art asset for books 4 through 6 from Cosmo. I just have not been able to find. I don't have the money to be able to buy the cover. I'm kind of an odd duck. I get my covers first because I am such a perfectionist that if I have the story first, like, this is my baby, and only the best, and I will find nothing but flaws in anything to represent my baby. But if I buy the cover first, I don't have a story to necessarily go with it yet. And so the cover art is amazing. My baby must be good enough having this cover. And so that's actually, like, part of my process. I get the covers done first. And I actually have a third universe that I'm working on. And I'm writing a cozy mystery series.
Okay.
It's like, there's no cursing, there's very little violence, it's murder, she wrote, but it's about running a bed and breakfast.
You know what? Fair enough. Valid. I'm already intrigued with hearing what you gotta do with that one. I've just been amazed with, like, especially the books you've been able to develop and all these concepts and whatnot. It gets me excited for what you're going to be producing next, especially hearing the fact that you've already got essentially 6 books lined up for Animetropolis. But on top of all this stuff with the writing, and on top of the stuff that we talked about with the video games and whatnot, you found another, I don't know if I'd call it a hobby at this point, but I mean...
I still call VTubing a hobby because it does not pay the bills.
Fair enough.
At the moment that I would love it to. I would love content creation to be my job. As such, I am still looking for work. I got restructured out of my last job right before COVID hit. And it's one of the reasons why I threw myself into Twitch streaming, just because I'm kind of a shut-in. I do not leave my house that often, and it allows me to have some form of social contact. It allows me to know which day of the week it is.
It's helpful. It's very helpful.
Yeah. But it gets me a little bit that I can work with here and there, and help out the bills what little I can, because I got restructured right before COVID hit, and I had been working because I'm disabled. I was working remotely already. Yeah. And so when COVID first hit, no one wanted to hire anyone remotely because, this is just going to pass in a couple weeks, and this is ridiculous. Like, people were pushing back against remote work. And so that happened for a while, and then people were like, well, we've already got everyone doing remote work, so we can't hire any more remote workers. And then it's like, okay. And now it's, well, we all want everyone to come back into the office. And I'm like, this is literally just how my life, like, that was the worst thing about COVID for me, is everyone had to just live my normal everyday life for a few months, like up to a year. And like, it was just news broadcasts about how, like, this was the worst possible thing in the entire universe, and oh God, when will it end? And I'm like, dude, Food Network exists. Like, you can just watch, like, oh pity, you don't get to go out. You don't get to go out to Red Lobster 3 times a week. like, let me tell you about the time I forgot to leave my apartment for 3 months. Not because I was, like, I just forgot to. Like, that was honestly, like, the worst thing about COVID. Like, it did not affect my life in any way, aside from the fact that, like, I was going to leave the house even less than I already did. But it's just how everyone else was treating what my life is like as if it was the worst possible thing that could ever happen to anyone, and oh god, what are we going to do if I have to stay indoors for another hour? I'm like,
Right.
you read a book. I've written a few of them. Please put money in my coffers. Oh no, my children have to stay near me. What am I gonna do? Like, you expect me to stay in my house where my children are at?
So let's get the VTubing, shall we?
Yes.
I have to know what exactly drew you into VTubing in the first place, and what intrigued you to take a step into trying it yourself.
So, when I first started streaming, I had a different account name. I was known as Pound of Flesh 0 for O. Okay. And I did face cam, like it was, it was, and the reason why it was called Pound of Flesh is I played Dead by Daylight, so it was kind of a horror-ish sounding thing. And, I'm more than a little chunky, and so I have a few pounds of flesh to lose. So based on my performance in a DBD match, I would do exercises on camera.
Okay.
That was my gimmick. And I thought that this would allow me to feel a little bit more body positive and lose some weight while playing video games, because I used to be like my joints are not that good. Back in the early 2000s, like, I was a competitive DDR player.
Okay.
So I was like I was not rail thin, but I was pretty darn close. Compared to how I am now, at least. What ended up happening was I got horrifying body image issues instead. And I didn't even know VTubing was a thing. I just wanted a funny little avatar.
Okay.
And what started it is I used to watch Buff Pup religiously. And I loved her little puppy in the corner. And I thought, I could do that. Like I could be entertaining. I could have a little character. It would allow me to, it would really allow me to kind of, explore, some of my background in comedy. It would allow me to explore, just different things. It becomes more performance art instead of just like, well, it's me and I'm on camera and let me tell you about me. Being a character, I think, gives you more freedom creatively. And so I actually contracted Buff Puff. She made my first model.
Ooh.
Buff Puff made my first model. If you look deep in my clips, you might be able to find it. It was fine for what it was. It did not have a lower jaw. That was the one thing about it that I wish that it had. And then eventually I'm like, okay, I was a Dead by Daylight streamer for a long time still. And the whole thing was like, I'm a monster playing as other monsters. And, while I have a great respect for the lore of Dead by Daylight and the world they've built, that game tilts me like it's nobody's business these days. I think it's kind of an unbalanced mess, and I want to love that game, but it became an abusive relationship. I became actively a terrible, spiteful person playing that game, and I put it down like about over a year ago, and I decided, okay, at this point I'm going to become a just chatting streamer because I love just chatting streams. Mm-hmm. I want to have a more one-on-one connection with my audience. And so I was inspired by streamers like Alibrel and others. And I okay, listen, we're going to be becoming a just chatting stream. My numbers took a hit because people did. But the thing is, the people that I lost were the people who wanted to see the funny little imp get angry all the time. And those were not the people I wanted. That's not what I wanted to be.
Right.
Those weren't the people that, I did not want to be the person that you watched because, oh my God, watch how easy it gets salty. I wanted to be more chill.
Right.
I ended up getting a new model. I redesigned my haunted home, as it's known, into a slightly different aesthetic. What you're seeing now is the upcoming new model. That is the updated one. The fun thing was, when I was my first model, I literally had I would sit behind a desk in this little lounge, and people would jokingly say, "Oh, you're in the Pound Lounge," and I'm like, "No, we're not calling it that. It's a horrible name. I can't. Why would you call it the Pound Lounge? That's horrible." But I will say this in honor of the read-in, because it's been the one thing when I my new model and my updated haunted home, I got rid of quote unquote the Pound Lounge because there was no need for it, and especially when I rebranded as Faust, people were like, well, okay, so, because it was one of those things, once I realized that, okay, I'm doing the VTubing now, I'm doing just chatting, and so much of my stuff makes sense if you've been following it from the beginning, but if you were a new viewer, none of it made sense. I'm a haunted mask, but I'm called Pound of Flesh, and I'm just chatting with people, but there's all this Dead by Daylight stuff that I'm not using, and I'm a silly little guy, but it's called, and once again, once I was re-debuting as Faust, it's so I'm going to be called Faust the Haunted Mask instead of Pound of Flesh the Haunted Mask, but I'm going to be in the Pound Lounge, which doesn't make sense because it's not my name anymore, but it was actually something that was so, people wanted this so bad, and I'm not joking, it was ridiculous how much people were upset that the Pound Lounge was gone, let me just do this, in honor of the new thing, I have made a karaoke lounge, and we have re-brought back the Pound Lounge, and I'm just this is where we will pound back a few drinks.
There you go.
And also, this is where I will be reading the Chuck Tingle books. Stuff pounded by the sentient manifestation of my Twitch stream, which is an actual book that I will be actually reading within the next couple days. So the Pound Lounge is coming back. God help you all. I've brought back the Pound Lounge, and I've decided this is your problem.
Yeah, this is your problem now, everyone. I hope you get what you wanted. Faust, I know I probably sound like I've showered you with a bunch of praise, but especially your aesthetic and everything, especially now more than anything else, I fucking love it to the max. Your model and the aesthetic you try to strive for. I cannot get enough of it. The thing that I'm curious about is obviously you were previously Pound of Flesh or whatnot. You've transitioned obviously to the Faust character, this haunted mask, like I said in the beginning, possessed by an imp of mischief stories and games. There's actually a lore video coming out soon. I've just gotten the recordings for it done. I just need to assemble it, and it does tell the entire story of how this happened. And I go in because again, I wrote myself horror stories, and I did my reading stuff. So this goes into actual medieval demonology and stuff like that, and it also explains why. Because one thing that I love, I both love and hate in the VTubing, it's I am the god of, I am the dark god from twixt the universes, and I am an eldritch abomination that devours the stars. Today we're going to be playing Stardew Valley, and, I wanted to explain why you have this demonic thing playing video games and telling stories, and I don't want to go completely into the lore, but it's because again, an imp is kind of the smallest of the demons. Right.
It's just a little tiny guy. I do not want to have infinite power. I don't want to be a dark god. If you guys want to play as dark god, that's awesome. I love the power fantasy of that.
Yeah.
I love the idea of being the underdog who is so scrappy and it's is just the thorn in your side that you can't get rid of. That to me is my favorite character. and that's what I wanted Faust to be. It's like he's an imp
Okay.
who kind of broke out of hell, is managed to kind of sneak under the radar, and is actually the I'll give this a little bit of a lore drop. Is actually the spawn of a demon that was made popular, I want to say, in the 12 to 1500s, called Titavillus. Faust is not Titavillus, but Faust is the spawn of Titavillus, who is the patron demon of scribes.
Okay.
The patron demon of scribes, what they do is they can take the words from gossip, letters and words from gossip in the pews, and mumbled sermons from the pulpit, take those words, deconstruct them, and put the letters into the works of scribes where they do not belong. Literally is the demon god of typos.
Okay.
And this is actual like friends. I want to say like Franciscan, like demonology. Like this is a thing. Like you can look it up.
Okay.
This was a thing from the 1200s and stuff. But yeah, Faust is basically the spawn of Titavillus, and Faust was meant to be the demon that punished those who burn books. And so, my whole thing is like, if you're destroying knowledge and trying to action in ignorance in the world, that is one of the worst things I think that anyone can do. And as such, every word that has been burned comes to me, and I have a library of ashes, all the burned, because, book burners are the worst. And at the same time, everyone has a book inside of them. And if you are an outcast, well, I want to hear your story. I eat stories up. I gobble them up. They are my meat. So that's kind of like, please come into my haunted home. What's your name? What's your story? I would love to eat. I'd love to hear your story. It's a little bit fey going, like, welcome to Starbucks. Can I have your name?
I should say that I'm surprised with how much you've invested into this character of Faust, but I'm also talking to the person that went all in with Arbiter Fabulous years ago.
Yes, yes.
It doesn't surprise me how much you've invested into this character. And again, just seeing your screen right now, just seeing, again, the aesthetic of it all, I absolutely love and appreciate all you've been able to do to put into this character. And go on.
I was about to say, I have, 3 great aesthetic loves, and I try to combine them in equal portions. I love, old Hammer films, Vincent Price haunted house films.
Yes.
I love Victorian homes, stuff like that. Big haunted, scary houses. I'm also, I'm a child of the 80s. I love me some synthwave aesthetics. I try to combine Art Deco and synthwave as much as I can in my aesthetics. Mainly because I'm shocked that more people don't, considering both of them are so heavy on geometric patterns. I think that those are 2 aesthetics that really should be getting used together more often. And the third is more biomechanical stuff, like you'd see stuff like H.R. Giger. I think that that leans itself well into body horror through means of the Victorian aspect, and also leans itself well into 80s horror through the synthwave aspect. So as you can see, I've kind of got, you look behind me, it's it is very obviously a haunted mansion. The lighting is very synthwave, but what the hell is going on the wall behind me?
Yeah.
Is the wall flesh? Is the wall wood? It seems to be alive. So that's kind of, that when I generated this stuff, I am an artist. I will not deny that I have some AI generating objects. I know there's some, I know that there's some controversy around AI art right now. I don't want to get into the controversy. As an artist, because I have been getting back into art, I will say this. I do not really believe... I believe that there are some ethical things that we need to address with AI art, but I do not believe it is going to be taking away anyone's jobs, because in order for AI art to be able to take anyone's jobs from a client, that client would have to know what they fucking wanted in the first place, and that has never happened of all ways.
You know what? Fair enough. Thank God. I do want to say I'm glad you did bring up the fact that you are getting back into art yourself and painting and stuff like that. That was one of the things I wanted to say. Whenever I had a chance to catch your streams or whatnot, that has been one of my favorite streams to see because I'm a person that loves and appreciate art. So seeing you actually go forth and try to get back into it yourself, what inspired you to start that in the first place, and how have you enjoyed the journey since you've gone back on this path?
It's been difficult. I'm not gonna lie. Part of it was, I miss doing art for just the sake of doing art.
Right.
Like I miss just, this used to be a thing that I did just for fun. And I wanted to get back into it. And the thing is I had a bunch of artist friends who were like, that, a lot of the new art programs and the art tablets, they have these things to help you, like, because I get like a slight hand tremor and stuff, or fingers go weak, and so it screws up my lines. And like they have ways of compensating for that. And I'm like, oh really? And they're like, yeah, like you could totally like at least try it again. And so what I did was, let's see if I can find this. It's on this. It might not be on this one. It's past art. I'm going to send you personally a thing. So this picture was from February. This is the, you can pop it up and stuff. This was the first piece of digital art I ever did. And one of the things that I remember from art classes that I took and art studies that I did was never, if you are wanting to learn how to, and if you are wanting to learn how to do things correctly, do not draw what you want to draw.
Okay.
You want to draw, like, you need to challenge yourself because you will learn something from every image you do. And so what you do is you put yourself out there and you're like, listen, oh, well, I want to draw, like comic, you need to draw human form. You don't look up the poses you want to draw. It's one of the reasons why you do figure painting classes and stuff, because you don't get to tell the model what pose they have to be in. I love cartoons, I love comics, and I love doing stuff for other people. I open myself up and I'm like, okay, here's what's gonna happen. If you show me your character, I will draw like I get to do my interpretation on it because you're getting free art.
Yeah.
But I did a thing for my birthday, and I'd done one of these before, and it lasted a couple weeks. But I said, if you submit a character, I'll run a randomizer week. If you're there and claim the art, claim it, I will do a color picture of it, but I get to interpret it.
Right.
But it was a way for me to like, a variety of different characters. Some people are animals, some people are humans, some people are more anime, some people are, hybrids of things, robots, all sorts of things. You never knew what you were going to get in the VTubing. And so that was my way of testing myself, of putting myself in the crucible, of putting myself up against that big grinding wheel, not having a choice in my subject matter.
Right.
And after drawing almost consistently for the better part of half a year, I've gotten a good chunk of my old skills back. So at this point, I don't know if it'll be on screen, but you've got that first picture I did.
Yes.
And I haven't really drawn much in the past. I did a self-portrait of, and I've always been most critical of images of my own characters, but within about half a year or so, I was able to draw this picture I was able to paint this Faust that I just sent you, and I'm actually quite pleased with it, which is saying something.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one recently whenever I was doing, like, my little research for you and such. Like, I fucking love that. Like, dead seriously.
Yeah.
Like, it's incredible.
And again, like people are like, I can't believe you did that so fast. I had the skills. My hands don't want to listen to me.
Right.
Like I know how to do it. It's just the body was not willing, and I had to train it. And so yeah, that's been my journey. Like I treat art more as a hobby now. I'd probably, like, if anyone wants to commission me, feel free, but understand that I do know what my stuff is worth, and I will be charging accordingly, especially considering I am compensating for a disability while working on it. Yeah, it's been a wild ride. You know, I have a lot of personal goals that I want to take with Faust. One of the things that it's kind of odd that some of the things that happened with Twitch in the news this week happened because it was actually a decision I made a few days before that. Is I want to start branching out into more YouTube stuff as well. And this was not because of the recent revenue announcement by Twitch. But one of the things that I used to do as a creative exercise on my channel was these things called the Stories from South Whispers, which technically take place in the year which you. What I would do is I'd basically pull the audience of like weird random questions, like things you don't want to see on a street corner at 3 a.m. Jobs that you should not have while in class. Stuff like that. Like it was just like, here's something very weird. Kind of go like, okay, let me think about this for 10 seconds. And I just like write down what everyone, and then I would give myself about 20 minutes and I would try to formulate a story, not having anything to do with the questions, but with the list of items and professions and events that were given to me. I would try to craft a scary, like a little ghost story you tell around the. And what I'm going to be doing is bringing that back once the re-debut happens.
Okay.
And I'm going to be, refining the stories offline, re-recording them, and then putting those finished stories up on YouTube. Because I mean, there's plenty of people who are like, here, let me read SPs to you. And I want to have my own little spin on that. It's going to be like, yeah, this is my stuff, what I've done. And the best part is I can always take those finished stories, set them aside in a little folder, and once I hit like 100,000 words across them, like, oh look, I've just accidentally, and I could probably just release that on Amazon or something.
Oh, there you go.
Like Tales of South Whispers Volume 1. There you go.
There you go. That sounds incredible. I mean, just thinking of like all these ideas you have planned, think of just back on all the stuff that we basically talked about, all the different aspects of art that you've had a hand in one aspect for another. Thinking of your journey as a whole since you decided to go down this creative venture, does it amaze you more or less how far you've come along?
It does. At the same time, like I don't want to say I'm a perfectionist, but to me, like, I'm one of those people that never gives anything a 10 out of 10. There's always room for improvement.
Fair enough.
I want to, like, I am happy with where my journey has taken me, but I'm not happy with this being the destination. I want to take this further.
Okay.
I want to make this, I would love to be able to hit Twitch partner. There's a couple stream teams I would love to get the attention of and be invited to join. It may never happen, but it's a goal that I can work towards.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to, again, because again, it's very hard. This country, it's very hard to work while disabled.
Yep.
I would love to be able to be in charge of my own career. I would love to be able to get really back into my writing. I've been dealing with a massive batch of executive dysfunction lately. That's why I don't have a book out this year. Once I get over that, I'll probably pump out like 3 or 4 in a year.
Okay.
But it's like, that's the hurdle I'm trying to get over. But actually working on the VTubing has helped me because it's been allowing me to be like, okay, I have a deadline, things to do. If something else pops up that I need to work on, that's a thing. It's been giving me projects that are creative, both writing, voice acting, doing directions on it, because, I'm not doing all my lore videos. Other people, I have to direct them, to when I'm doing, if I have an audiobook, I have to approve the narration. Oh my gosh, yeah, it's been a wild journey. I am happy, but I still think that I'm only on the first few steps of a much longer journey.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd say no. I mean, it's one of those like you could obviously like honestly. I feel like you and me are kind of in a similar boat when it comes to like just content creation stuff. Like at least for me, like I feel like especially how far I've come along with like this podcast and such. Like I'm proud of it. I'm happy with everything that I've done, and I cannot, thank the people enough for helping me get to this point. But I also know in the back of my head that if I was really like truly satisfied with this thing, I probably would have stopped and tried something else. Like, because I know there's a lot more to go. I know there's things I could definitely improve on. I know there's definitely opportunities that I can definitely explore to improve this stuff. And like for you, like you've only really, scratched the surface with what you could potentially do. I mean, I'm talking to you like on the cusp of what's bound to be a cool re-debut with every little bit of a stick you got going on. And like even then, like in the back of your head, oh, there's so much more I'm eager to do.
Like I am still like my stream is still very much small potatoes compared to where I want it.
Oh, there you go.
Like I would love in the next couple of years to hit Twitch partner. But that's it. It's going to take time. And that's fine that it takes time. There's nothing wrong with waiting for. I have to put in the work, and I have to figure out what works. I have to, because the fact of the matter is you can't put all your eggs in one basket when it comes to content creation. You have to be able to diversify. You have to figure out what it is your audience wants.
Right.
You have to be able to also be able to guide your audience like what. It kind of sucks, but it's like my philosophy it's my same philosophy that when it comes to my writing. The more that I feel content, the more I know that I have to switch it up. Every time I go to an editor, like, here's my finished. I love this. Make me hate it, because it's like I love this. Please make me hate it. Like, well, why would I want that? Because imagine how much I'll love it once I fix what I don't see wrong with it.
Right. Absolutely. Well, for this next question, if I may, you said it's going to take a little bit of time to get to where you want to. So how about for this next question, I accelerate that time a little bit, if I may, and give you more or less the dream scenario. Let's say I am Big Shot Mr. Moneybags. I come up to you and I'm like, look, Faust, we know what you've been able to present and what you've got in the works and whatnot is outstanding, and we know that we think that we'll give you a little bit of a push and we can get you to where you want to be. We have access to anyone and everyone in any art industry whatsoever, and more money than there should be possible. We could probably be fixing so many crises there, especially around you right now, but we'll focus on that in a little bit. Right now, it is focused on you and you alone. If given this opportunity, what would be the Dream Faust project?
Okay, the Dream Faust project, I have only recently heard about this element of VTubing, where you actually have like an Unreal 5 room, and you wear like a full suit, and like you actually, like, how do I put this? Your VTube avatar inside of the room acts like a face cam avatar in a room.
Oh, wow.
Like you actually have, like there's I think Pumpkin Potion's about to do it.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm trying to think. There's this one person who's been doing it a lot. Let me find their name real fast, because I did immediate thing.
I was gonna say it was like Doozy or Woozy or something along the lines of that, wasn't it? Because I think
I'm scrolling back and I'm trying to find. Oh, I can't believe this is so far back in my timeline at this point. But yeah, like they actually have been like teaching other people how to make this stuff. I think take commissions for it. There's no way it's that far back.
I was gonna say, correct me if I'm wrong. If we're thinking of the same person,
Woody Dubs.
Woody Dubs. Okay, yeah, I was around the same path.
But yeah, like that's what he does. Like he actually builds, like it's a 3D space. Like I would love to have an actual 3D, Unreal, like interact that I could be Faust within. And at the same time, like, perfect scenario is assuming, I'm kind of over my executive dysfunction issues, like, that my stream just becomes me writing my books, talking, just having a good time. Like and if I want to have a game day, I have a game being in. I would like my books to be a way to get people to the stream, but I also want the stream to be a way for people to get to my books. Because I would like, me being able to tell stories on YouTube to be a way to get people to the stream. I'd like my stream to be a way for people, silly stuff to put on YouTube. I really have the to be able to make all sorts of different content, but primarily being the creative stuff that I want to do. I want to do, if I could just do painting on stream, if I could just do books on stream, books being the primary thing. The thing is, I have to be very honest. I love my audience to pieces, and this is not a slight against them. Writing books on stream has never been very popular, as much as I would love it to be popular.
Right.
There are some people who absolutely nail that audience, and I'm a bit jealous of them, and I would not trade my audience in a million years. I love the people that come to my stream repeatedly. Again, this is not a slight against them. It's just, there are some games that I love. They don't fit the channel. I don't play those games on my stream. I would really love to be a very interactive experience. I would love it to be where, kind of Tales from the Fish sort of thing, where, you just kind of, we're just going to tune into Faust and we don't know what's going on. It's going to be a little bit creepy. It's going to be scary. It's going to be certainly cozy and welcome. Because I don't want to do like jump scares or anything. But I love that kind of Hammer Films aesthetic, and I love to be like perfect world. That's what I would be doing. Is I would be really making a kind of Hammer Films aesthetic place for people to just sit back and vibe and get politely frightened.
There you go. That's a good thing to aspire for more than anything else. I mean, I would love to see that kind of stream someday, but sadly, we gotta get down from the dream scenario. We gotta get back to reality, and I'll ask the ever so generic question: where do you hope to see yourself, say, 5 to 10 years from now?
Honestly, this is going to sound. I hope this doesn't sound like way too off, just financially stable. Like it is very hard to be in this country. 5 to 10 years, my honest hope is I'm living in, and I have, and I have access to medical attention. That is my dream. I would love my books to be taking off in some way, shape, or form. I'm not expecting, massive success because I like to keep things very realistic.
Right.
Perfect world, I'd have Danielle Steele money. But, you think I'm joking? If you did not know this, big rich authors and people are like Stephen King and stuff like that. Like Danielle Steele is currently the author who has made the current living author who has made the most money.
Okay.
I think she's like the 3rd or 4th highest grossing author of all time.
Okay. Yeah, respect.
Yeah.
Respect.
So it's like a lot of people are like, doesn't she kind of write that like God, Danielle Steele's freaking amazing. Sorry, I went on a tangent there.
You're fine.
But like I said, like down to earth. I just want to be financially stable. I want to be able to support my family.
Yep.
If that is through streaming, if that is through my books, if that is through just content creation, what have you, I don't care. I'd love to, currently I'm trying to get back into the game and working on community management. Mm-hmm. Anyone in the gaming industry, I'm please reach out to me. I have been looking for work for 2 years. Please understand, I am disabled. It is, at this point, it's like, hire me because of that.
There you go.
I'll take the freebie. I'll take the pity hire.
Fair enough. But I mean, nevertheless, just that goal, as simple as you say it may be or whatnot, I genuinely hope that for you. That from the bottom of my heart, I genuinely do. As we start to wind down the interview, I just have one last question I want to ask. Obviously, you've been deeply entrenched in art on so many different aspects for ages now at this point. How important is art, not just for you, but for the world as a whole?
Art is art is necessary. Art is all communication starts with art. The first language that we really spoke were paintings on cave walls. But beyond that, it was just gesturing with intonation. The beauty of language comes from art. Without art, there is no humanity.
Right.
So that is the long and the short of. Even if something is stripped down from all concept of design, the fact that it is still appealing to the eye is art. Minimal. People are like, well, this. There's like a brand of stuff I believe called like No Name, very minimalistic in their design. I'm like, well, minimalism is art.
Yeah.
Everything is art. Things that go into the most basic element of your daily life, involves some art. It was involved at some point because art is the creative spark.
Well, there you go. That is wonderfully worded, if I do say so myself.
Thank you.
That is all the. Oh Jesus. That is all the questions that I have for you. I've already showered you with a whole bunch of praise, but I want to shower you with a little bit more because it's my podcast. I do whatever the fuck I want.
Heck.
Faust, ever since I have first been introduced to you, mainly through Sam, I'll be honest, that's how I got to know you and whatnot. Ever since I've gotten to first know you, I have been amazed with you in one aspect for another. Seeing the aesthetic you first presented with this Faust character and whatnot, I absolutely loved that from the start. And seeing how it's been able to develop more, I've been amazed more. Getting to really know more about you before and after this interview, like knowing the history you kind of had, knowing how much you've invested in yourself and how much, like, as much as life has thrown several different fucking wrenches in your direction, you've been able to persevere and do incredible stuff in one aspect for another. It just gives me nothing but pure respect at the end of the day, because you are doing what you love, and you are doing a fantastic job doing it. Oh, trust me, I'm not even done yet. No, it's just giving me nothing but respect, and I absolutely love just about everything that you've been able to do. And if nothing else, I definitely want to divulge a lot more into your stuff. I definitely want to read your books. I definitely want to see the stuff that you've had a hand in. I appreciate and love what you have been able to do. And if this is only like the start of your journey on at least when it comes to the VTubing or whatnot, what you're going to do next afterwards or whatnot, I am nothing but excited for. Long and short of it, thank you for what you do. I truly appreciate, and I just thank you. Thank you for everything.
Oh man, thank you. Thank you. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna cry. Like I said, it's been a hard journey, because again, for those who don't, I'm on the autism spectrum. One of the things that I was told when I was diagnosed at the age of 15 was that I would never really be able to be around people, because when I was diagnosed, there wasn't as much known about it. I was kind of just thrown into the deep end, and it's like, yeah, you're never going to really be able to work around people, and it was basically given to me almost like a freaking death sentence. I'm not going to accept that, and it is very difficult. Like obviously, I'm going to be like I possibly say, oh no, it's fine. I'm like, I know that there were aspects of some of my that rambled on and were a little bit awkward. That is something I have to live with every day, and that's fine. But the fact of the matter is I threw myself into careers that directly involved working with the public because I knew that I would never be able to master being neurodivergent, but I wanted to have as many skills in my toolbox as possibly could. So again, when I said, I worked at Olive Garden as a trainer, working as a waiter with autism is not easy.
No,
but
it's not easy.
Busting ass to the point where you start being able to train other people is that was a super big highlight of my life. It's a super, you have to be super sensitive to social dynamics on the fly. You deal with a lot of sensory overload going in and out. Once I found out about community management, I'm on the autism spectrum. That I inherently have a disability when it's dynamic, and I am working directly in social and working with communities, and I am thriving while doing it. It is not at any point ever easy for me to do, but it was a challenge I needed to overcome, and it is seriously passion. I am now VTubing to a wide and diverse audience. I am writing books for a wide and diverse audience. I'm not going to say that, oh, well, come your disabilities. You can't. But, you have to try to put in the work to be able to get the tools in your toolbox that you need to make your journey a little bit easier. And it's still going to be but, and I'm not saying everyone can do what I did.
Right.
One, shows their struggles differently. And I just realized when I talked about rambling on, and I think I'm doing that right now.
Once again, this is a podcast. I encourage rambling. Are you kidding me?
Okay, I just want to make sure, because I'm just imagining we're again, what the hell was that? No, I'm just but no, seriously, this has been an experience. I probably should have had more coffee before coming on. Just to make the neuroreceptors work a little bit better. No, it's been a...
I was gonna say, look, this has been a fantastic episode. You brought the energy that I thought you would for this, and you brought the wonderful stories that I really enjoyed for us. So there you go.
Oh, awesome! Thank you so much. It's been an honor being here, and like I said, the biggest thing about it that freaked me out is the fact that you got to meet Cosmo before.
I'm just as amazed as you. Okay?
I'm so jealous. I want to meet Cosmo so bad. Be like, thank you. I want to. Oh.
Let me see what I can do about that. Okay, I'll try to get something.
God.
I think I got that.
Oh my God, I will cry.
Well, how about before we really get to that, for those who may want to meet you and get a chance to really love what I've been getting to love, go ahead and plug yourself for the people at home.
All right, so my name is Faust. I almost said Pound Flesh because you got me talking about this. My Twitch is twitch.tv/FaustTTV. All one word, so it's Fausttiva. On Twitter, you can find my live streaming stuff at twitter.com/Faust_TTV. My professional Twitter, which I do not there very often, but that is at twitch.com or twitter.com/arbiterfabulous, all one word. And yeah, that's generally where I talk more. That's more it's sort of a quasi professional, but the Twitch stuff is all Faust on TTV. I stream Monday through Friday, 7 to 10 p.m. Pacific time. And yeah, that's been my thing. I'm a variety streamer. We do just chatting. We sometimes just chill vibe. We play games. I write stories. I do art. I'm very much you tell me what you want to see. I try to and put on a good show for you.
There you go.
The only thing I ask is, if you're going to show up, all I ask is please interact. I work best when I know that people are.
Okay. Well, yeah. Especially, I would like to hope that especially if they're come up and seeing the energy that you've been able to bring more than anything else. I would like to hope that the people who show up are having fun and interacting more than anything else.
Oh yeah.
Do you have any final words before we sign off?
I was not expecting that. Buy my books. I'm poor and disabled. I need.
I'll be sure to link them down in the description below. I got you covered.
Sorry, I want to say something witty and mindful and inspiring, but I'm sorry.
Look,
I'm poor.
Long and short of it, buy their books. Buy Faust's book. Buy their books. All right.
if you want a good urban fantasy series that where the main character sort of what if Peter Quill that a Star-Lord, you'll like the Gear Witch investigation books. If you want to read basically John Wick crossed with Rabbit, that's Animaetropia's ones out. I was about halfway done with book 2, and I realized I not liking where I'm restarting it.
Okay.
But it shouldn't take me too long. Once I get over this mental hurdle, which I've been fighting for a year. But I'm about, and if you like cozy mystery, give me some time, and I'll have books about a man whose first name is freaking Parsley. So there we go. So.
Well, I'll let you take the time to make those masterpieces to works. Until then, all I have to say is for the people at home, hasta luego, mi amigos.
Tell me what's wrong, tell me it's parts in motion. Sing me a song, tell me your eyes can't all open. Show me it all, pick me up in the car you drove when you used to call. Show me it all.
I'm going to genuinely mean it when I say it this time. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of this episode. I know with some of the technical issues, I certainly tried editing as much as I can with it, but I sincerely hope you still did enjoy. This was still a fun conversation with Faust. The way that they just went off on certain conversations and the details that they gave or whatnot, I fucking love it. Despite everything, it was still a really great episode, and I was honored to have Faust on this podcast. Which, for people that are paying attention, I'm sure you may have noticed that this is episode 99. Ooh, what could that potentially mean? If you do your numbers right, it means the next one's 100. Believe me when I say I got something big planned for 100. I think I recorded it at the time that this is being taken care of. I recorded it last weekend, and I got something special for you guys. It's gonna be a fun episode more than anything else. I'm thinking more and more about this journey and the fact that I've gotten this far. The fact that I'm able to have an episode 100 blows my mind, but I'll focus more on that next week because I got a lot to say about it. Which means, sorry, I had to take a break from the Halloween guests. I'll tell you what, we'll do 100 next week, big old celebration or whatnot. And then I got something very, very, very big for you guys for 101. Consider the fact that 101 is going to be right before Halloween. So I think what I got planned, I think it'll more than make up for it. But until then, I'll just say for now, be safe out there. Be like, genuinely from the bottom of my heart. Like, the times are weird right now, and people are going through a lot. Just look at the animation industry. I genuinely mean just be safe out there, people. It's scary times going on, but I feel like at this point, some of us, a good chunk of us, have probably gone through worse. I'd like to hope. Honestly, yeah. Just please be safe out there. You're doing wonderful with what you're doing right now. Keep up the awesome work and just be safe.